3 weeks ago, you were a normal person. You had a job, you had a routine. You had a name that was yours. Today you are sitting in an Istanbul apartment with blinds on it. Closed at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. A photo on the phone. And a passport that says your name is Alejandro Vidal, import consultant born in Valencia, La CIA. Has 14 open folders with 14 names, none of them did not go to trial. And you have 30 days to find the person responsible. Before there is a folder number 15, whatever happens after you find it was not in the contract you signed. That should have looked weird to you. Didn't you think it was weird? This is what happens when the world's most powerful intelligence agency calls you who are not an agent, that you do not have field training, that all you have is a language, a face that does not appear in any database, and a life story that functions as perfect coverage. The CIA did not need someone who knew how to kill. Needed someone who could walk in certain places without anyone looking at it twice. And that without your knowledge you have been doing for years. Being exactly that. But before you understand where you are, you need to know who you are looking for. What I'm going to tell you now, it's what they put in front of you in a room, windowless, in Langley, Virginia, exactly 22 days ago. Its operational name is Kestrel, the real name. CIA says it has it but does not give it to you. What you do get are the facts. 14 victims. -1 different countries in 4 years: Berlin, Bangkok, Buenos Aires, Oslo, Mexico City, and now Istanbul. No geographical pattern. No nationality pattern. Ages 31 to 67. For women, 10 men. Different methods in each case. What makes almost impossible to connect them if you do not have access to all the files at the same time. Interpol has 3 of the cases, the FBI has 2. Intelligence services. Turks have 1 and they die no. Share it. No one has the complete picture except the CIA and the company, for reasons that we'll explain later. Or they will never explain. Can't get an official agent in to do this. Need someone who does not exist in any organization chart. Someone who, if things go wrong, do not generate an incident call. Someone compliant, expendable, of liability, as they say. Welcome to your new role in history. What you get for this is $40,000. -1 in advance, 25. When you confirm the location and hand in the coordinates. You are not paid to capture him, you are not paid to stop him. Just for finding it. Low Q, La CIA. With that information, they tell you it's not your problem. $40,000 for tracking down a ghost who has been with the company for 4 years. Invisible for all the intelligence services of the world. Western, in theory, is a good deal. In practice, you still don't know what you are buying with that money. Your coverage is solid. There are to recognize it. Alejandro Vidal has a company registered in Valencia. LinkedIn updated. 3 years of fiscal activity in Spain. Even a couple of opinion articles published in a foreign trade magazine. The CIA builds these things well whenever she wants. You wear the suit that Alejandro Vidal would wear. You speak Spanish peninsular with the correct cadence. You have business cards that weigh just enough. And you have been moving around the Bayolu district, attending meetings with real import companies. Textile, because that's how it works. The best lie has the highest possible percentage, really. Your handler's name is Marcus. No, you will never know his last name. Contacts you once a day through an application of self-destructing messaging. 40 seconds after each conversation. Messages are short, always in English, always in business code. Meeting means you are still active. Proposed revision means that there is new information. Cancel contract would mean something you thought you might not imagine. In 22 days, Marcus has said to cancel contract 0 times. That should reassure you. It does not reassure you. What you do have is the photo. One blurred photo. Taken by a security camera at the airport in Bangkok 14 months ago. A man between 40 and 50 years old. Medium complexion, nothing to highlight. Dark hair that probably no longer has. Clothes that he surely changed. The only thing that remains, according to analysts, it is the way we walk. A slightly asymmetrical step. Right hip higher than left hip. Not visible unless you know how to search for it. You spend the first 3 days watching people walk in the markets. Your neck hurts from looking down so much. Then comes day 2. And this is what no one at Langley had ever calculated. You are in the Great Bazaar on a Tuesday morning. In the part where they sell spices. Pretending interest in a common mixture. While listening to a conversation between 2 vendors. Because your briefing said that the objective had frequented this sector 3 weeks ago. You don't expect anything concrete. You are letting the city see you as a boring business tourist. And then you see it is not the photo. The photo was blurry, it was old, it was almost useless. Is the way you walk, right hip the step, asymmetrical as the Greeks, described with so much precision that your brain now recognizes as a pattern, before you consciously know what you are seeing. Carries a cloth bag of casual clothing. Nothing to differentiate it from the 400 people who are in that corridor with him. Passes within 4 meters of you, does not look at you. You don't look at him, or more exactly, you look the other way, with speed, exact that marks the manual you never read. But that's somehow you wear. Internalized since. Marcus explained it to you in that room. If you think you have it, I don't understand. Breathe, wait, confirm you lose it. 90 seconds later enters the maze of positions. You are in a city with 15 million people, and you have just seen the man. You are looking for the second day of operation. That should be good news. That night it takes you 4 hours to fall asleep, thinking about why it is not. You send the report to Marcus. The answer comes in 11 minutes. The shortest time Marcus has taken to answer you. Says good work, continue protocols, do not act, 3 sentences. None of the 3 tell you what you want to know. What exactly does it mean, do not act? In the context of finding the target on day 2 of a 30-day operation, do not act now. Never act, what exactly are you doing here? We have come to that. But first you need to understand how it works. Be invisible in a city that is not your own. Because what is coming in the next few days is going to test you in ways for which no one has prepared you. Being Alejandro Vidal in Istanbul has his. Yes, there are no rules first. Never talk about Spain if you can avoid it. Because any Turkish who has traveler will ask you about cities and neighborhoods, and you need to respond with the naturalness of someone who has lived there, not from someone who memorized data in 4 days. Second, maintain the same routine for the first 2 weeks. The same coffees, the same schedules, so that when you start to deviate from it, no one will. Note the third change. If someone asks you a question you weren't expecting, you need at least 3 seconds before answering. And those 3 seconds, they have to look like you are choosing the words in another language, not that you are calculating how much it knows. The one who asks, you wear the coverage well for the first 5 days. Actual meetings, discussions on tariffs and delivery times, dinners with businessmen, Turks explaining mathematical problems to you while you, and take notes in a notebook that Marcus will review that night, because it turns out that even the notebook is encrypted in a way you don't fully understand. You are a consultant, boring in a country that is beautiful to you. And what do you think right now? A trap you don't know when you're going to get out of. The problem is not maintaining coverage when things are going well. The problem comes on the 6th, on a Wednesday, in a fish restaurant in the neighborhood of Karakoy. The man sitting in front of you has been speaking in Turkish on the phone for 20 minutes, and suddenly he looks at you, turn down the phone and ask you something in Turkish that you understand perfectly. Something like the truth that I am right. Looking for casual pants? The problem is that Alejandro Vidal de Valencia does not speak Turkish. Alejandro Vidal has been in Istanbul with for 4 days and should smile without understanding anything. You have 4 seconds. You smile, you say sorry Turkish with an accent. English that is not yours, but that is the first poison your brain finds. The man laughs, says something in English, the conversation continues, nobody notices anything. But you spend the next 40 minutes with a heart rate which is probably not compatible with looking like a boring consultant. And what comes next? When you discover the real pattern of the target and you receive the message of Marcus you were not expecting, is where this hunt is no longer what you thought it was. The next 10 days are a masterclass. How paranoia works when it is actually installed. It's not what you see in the movies. That character watching above the mirror in dark alleys is much more banal and much more exhausting. Is to go into a cafe and spend the first 3 minutes identifying the 2 and the 3 tables with line of direct view to the door before you can order breakfast. Is to analyze each conversation after you end up searching the question that did not fit the look that lasted a second, the silence that came when I shouldn't have. Is to fall asleep with the phone in your hand because Marcus could send the message that changes it everything at any time, and you need to see it before it self-destructs. But within all that, work progresses, and what he discovers about Castro in those 10 days completely changes what you thought you were looking for the company. I had given you a profile, 14 victims, 6 countries, without visible pattern. That's what the briefing said. What the briefing didn't tell you, because either didn't know it or decided not to share it, is that there is a non-geographical, non-temporary pattern. The pattern is in who the victims are and when you see them. You can't believe that 14 files of 6 intelligence services have not been connected before. Or maybe they did connect it and preferred not to tell you about it. This possibility also exists and is not the least probable. The 14 victims have something in common that does not appear in any official registry, because it's not the kind of thing that appears in official records. All 14 had testified, declared, or cooperated at any time with some Western intelligence agency in the last 12 years. Not all for the company. Some for the MI6. One for German BND, 2 for French DGSE. Everyone at some point in their lives had crossed that line, invisible to give information to someone that he represented a government that was not his own, and all of them, 2 to 7 years after doing so, had died in ways that no one could attribute to. Officially no one. What that means, you'll let it settle slowly, because the implications are uncomfortable. Castrol is not a serial killer. In the classical sense, it does not kill by psychological compulsion or personal motivation. Kills on demand, yes, but the orders follow a very specific logic. Someone somewhere is cleaning up a list of people who at some point in time knew too much, and Castrol is the instrument of this cleanliness. Efficient, international, invisible. The perfect tool for something that no government can officially run errands. Analysis of Marcus in 3 separate messages. Because it is too much for one. Marcus takes 6 hours to respond. That had never happened before. The answer says, analysis received, continues, protocols, nothing more. 6 hours to tell you to do the same as before. That night, for the first time since you arrived in Istanbul, you wonder if the right question is not who it is, Castrol, but why does the C&E send it to you? You do not exist in any organization chart to find someone whose list of victims includes exactly the type of people that the company uses and then apparently needs to make it disappear. You do not reach any conclusion. You just leave the question floating, because unanswered questions immediately in this work are exactly the ones that keep you alive. The day is when the hunting gives a twist you didn't have on any stage. You are in a kebab restaurant in the Fadi district. The third in 2 days. Because you have tracked down Castrol by a network of establishments that it frequents with rotation. Irregular, never the same twice in a row. Never in a pattern that allows advanced prediction. You have been there for 3 weeks, learning to be patient, in a way that you didn't know you were capable of. You are eating without tasting what you eat, licking without looking at it when your phone vibrates. It is not the Marcus application. Is the local number you use for coverage contacts? The message says in Spanish with a strange accent. I know who you are. I know what you are looking for. He also knows it. You need to know before it's too late. Tonight, 2200 Galata Tower North entrance. You read the message 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. There are exactly 2 possibilities. First, someone who knows what you are doing, wants to help or warn you for reasons you do not know. Second is either a Castrol trap, or someone else who has an interest in this operation not being get nowhere. Both are equally plausible. Both require decisions. Radically different, and Marcus is not available. The 9 o'clock in the morning message has arrived, has already self-destructed, and the next one does not arrive until tomorrow. You would go think about it, because in this work the right answer is not always the one who would save a movie character. Sometimes the right answer is the most cowardly one. Sometimes staying in the apartment with the door closed is exactly what keeps. Long live the operation, and it keeps you alive, and sometimes the only way to know if a trap is a trap is to enter it with your eyes open enough to go out. Of course you go, because you carry days in a strange city with a name, fake, looking for someone who shouldn't be able to find you. And it turns out that he already found you. Staying in the apartment doesn't make you safer. Only the entry makes you more ignorant. North of the Tower of Galata at 2200 of a cinema. December in November. Has enough people, so you're not the only idiot standing there looking at my cell phone. Wait 7 minutes. Then someone stands next to you. Woman in her 40s. Gray coat, doesn't look at you when he talks. Says your real name, not Alejandro Vidal's, yours. That's what gets you coldest all night long. Not what he says next, but let him know that. What he says next is this. Works for an intelligence service that will not happen to you, of a country that will not contain you either, and has been following Castrol for its own reasons. You know that the company sent you. Knows that you found Kestrel in the Great Bazaar on the second day of the year. Knows that your handler is called Marcus, although that is probably not his real name either. And what it tells you, looking at the tower and not at you, is the following. Kestrel knows you have been here since day 4. Not since day 2. Since day 4. Which means it takes 14 days. Knowing that someone is looking for it, that this someone is you and who has done nothing about it. Why you haven't done anything about it is the question. That she does not respond. Because he says he doesn't know. Or because he knows it and decides not to tell you. Before he leaves you a card with a number. And says that if you need to get out of Turkey fast, that number is your best option. Does not tell you who is answering. Goes among the people before you can process enough of what just happened to ask the following question. Do you walk 45 minutes back to the apartment? Not straight in the morning. Below you send Marcus a summary of the meeting. Answer arrives in 8 minutes. The shortest time in days says, unauthorized meeting compromises operation. Evaluates sentence extraction. The first is a reproach. The second is the first time in days that someone has mentioned the possibility of you leaving from here without having completed the mission. Evaluates extraction as if it were a reasonable option, as if $40,000 and days of your life were something that simply evaluates leaving half commands back, uncontinuous. A single message. Marcus does not respond. The 24th day you really find it. Not in the Great Bazaar, not in any of them. Circuit restaurant that you have been mapping for 3 weeks. You can find it in a neighborhood hardware store on the side of the street. Images of the city. Snow in the afternoon. Because a week earlier, you followed a thread apparently irrelevant to the analysis. Something about purchasing patterns in cash, and that thread led to this neighborhood. And this neighborhood led to this street. And this street today has Kessler buying screws or whatever a man buys, which in 6 countries has been invisible to all. Except for you. This time you don't lose it. This time you have the time, the coverage, and the position. Right to do what you are supposed to do. Which is to confirm your location. Register coordinates and send them to Marcus so that the company can do what the company does. But before you open the application, you receive a message from Marcus. Not the 9 o'clock in the morning one, a new one, which arrives at 47 o'clock in the afternoon, with Kestrel 30 meters from you. Choosing between 2 types of screws with the same face of any person. Buying screws in a hardware store, the message reads, authorized neutralization 48-hour window. Confirms neutralization capability. That's the word does not deliver. No location optional neutralization. That in the vocabulary of intelligence agencies does not mean what the dictionary says. Means exactly what it looks like. What does it mean when you think about it for 3 seconds? The contract you signed set location and possession. That's what Marcus explained to you. That's what you accepted. $40,000 for finding it. Not for nothing else, and now Marcus sends you confirms capacity. As if the last 24 weeks of your life would have been a job interview for a post that no one ever described you. Kestrel pays for screws. Leaves the hardware store, walks northward. You have exactly 8 seconds to decide what you do. Not 8 metaphorical, 8 real. After 8 seconds, or you follow it, or you lose it in the labyrinth of streets in the neighborhood. And if you lose it now with 6 days of operation remaining, you may not find it again. You follow it for 40 minutes. You follow a man who has killed 14 people in 6 countries by a neighborhood in Istanbul, where the cats sleep on the steps of stairs and the shopkeepers close early and smell like bread freshly made coming from somewhere you can't do. Identify him, walks without haste. Does not look back. Or it's because he doesn't know you're there. Or it is because he knows perfectly well that you are there and has decided that he does not care. Neither option is reassuring. In front of a 5-story building on a street. No name that does not appear. On Google Maps, get keys, enter. 3rd floor deduced by the lights that are turns on in 90 seconds later. You have the address. You have the floor number. You have Kessler inside that 6-day window building before the operation expires. And you have a message of Marcus asking you for something that was not in any contract. You just send the address to Marcus. Only the address and floor without confirming capacity. Without saying yes or no to what Marcus called you. Only the data that was supposed to be your job to deliver. The answer comes in 4 minutes, says received. Operation on the way. Stay out of the area. Operation on the way, law CIA. is going to send someone to someone trained for what Marcus asked you if you could do. Which means that the question was never real. Or that it was real but you had the option not to answer it. Or that there was always a plan B and you were plan A. Just because you were the cheapest, the most disposable, and if something went wrong, the most negligible. All three interpretations are possible. All three are probably true at the same time. That night back in the apartment with the blinds on, closed, you think of the woman in the gray coat and the number she left you. You think of the 14 folder names and what they had in common. You think of Marcus and himself. Marcus is someone's real name. Do you think of Alejandro Vidal and when exactly Alejandro Vidal ceases to exist? And it's you again. If there is a difference after 24 days, being someone else in a city that is not your own, looking for someone who has been missing for 14 days, knowing you were looking for it, and that instead of doing anything about it, he continued to buy screws in a neighborhood hardware store as if nothing at all. Why? Castrol did nothing when he knew you were there? That's what you can't stop thinking. Because there is one explanation that makes the most sense, and also the most uncomfortable of all, those you have considered in 24 days, and it is this. Castrol did nothing because you were not a threat to him. Because I knew exactly what type of operation you were, and I knew exactly what was going to happen when you will find the address. Which means that someone told you how it works. This inside, or what it means. And this is the version that removes you. Sleep at 3 o'clock in the morning. In Istanbul is that Castrol and CIA are not exactly the opposite of the angry briefing. Suggested that this operation was not a hunt, was something more like a controlled delivery with you in the middle without knowing it, being the messenger of something that was already agreed before you set foot in this country. You open the drawer, you look at the number on the card of the gray coat. You think about calling, you don't call yet. Because there is something you need to do first. And it's leaving this apartment tomorrow morning to walk to the corner where a waiter named Hassan has served you coffee 11 times in 24 days. Without asking you anything, to order the same old coffee, sit at the same table, usual by the window, and behave for exactly 45 minutes. As someone who does not quite understand that the job for which he was hired was another job, completely different from the one described to him. That's what a professional does. What someone who has already learned in 24 days does. That the difference between, and I don't understand in this world, is not in as long as you know, is in how much you pretend you don't know. The next day, Marcus sends the 9 o'clock in the morning message, says, Operation completed, good work. Active extraction protocol flight in 72 hours. Concluded without details, without explanation. No answer to any of the questions I do not understand. The operation is completed. And you in 72 hours. You are going to board a plane with Alejandro's passport, Vidal, for the last time. And at a connecting airport. That passport is going to disappear and yours is going to appear. And you're going back to being who you were before all this began. Except you won't be who you were. Because who you were before didn't know what you know now. I didn't know what it feels like to walk 40 minutes behind someone who has killed 14 people, wondering what happens if it turns. I didn't know what reading is, authorized neutralization, with the target 30 meters away, and have to decide in 8 seconds who you are. I didn't know the difference between the one who gives the order and the one who executes it is much smaller than it looks from the outside of the company. Needed someone who did not exist in any organization chart. Someone who could walk in certain places without anyone looking at it twice. Someone who, if things went wrong, did not generate an incident. That's what they told you. What they didn't tell you is that they also needed someone that, when the time comes, had to choose. Not between obeying or not obeying, between know who you are or let the situation decide for you. You chose to send only the address without confirming capacity, without saying yes to what Marcus called. That's what happened in those 8 seconds. If it was the right thing to do, you don't know. You'll probably never know. In this paper, the right and wrong decisions sometimes produce exactly the same results. And the only difference is what you can sleep with afterwards. The apartment is empty in less than an hour. Nothing personal, because there was never anything personal. Nothing to indicate that someone named Alejandro, Vidal, or any other name was here 24 days, looking for someone who has been missing for 14 days. Knowing that he was being sought by the company is very good at deleting things. You knew it before you started. It's just that now you also know that it includes you. Cab to airport passes through Fadi neighborhood. On the street with no name on Google Maps. The 5-story building has the lights on the 3rd floor. You don't know what that means, you don't ask. Hey in video and El Canal. That has everything you have just seen, but from the other side of the Atlantic. That of someone who has been around for 10 years. So inside that there is no more outside. Someone who at some point crossed exactly the type of line you avoided crossing today. Or maybe you didn't avoid. Or maybe you crossed it without realizing it. That video is called POV. You have been there for 10 years, infiltrated in the cartel, and you are already one of them. And we'll leave you with a question that this video does not answer. When exactly it leaves of being a decision and start being simply who you are.